I saw a little post on Facebook. Sometimes got to be careful what I share. But I can share it in here because I won't embarrass anybody too bad because you're all here. But it said, can wake up at 4 a.m. to shop on Black Friday, but can't wake up at 10 a.m. to go to church. Is a $20 crock pot worth it? But you're here, so I can say it in here. I don't embarrass anybody or put anybody on the spot. Thought it was funny. I didn't share it on Facebook, though. Doesn't mean you can't. But glad you're here today. I know this has been a busy week for many of you with Thanksgiving and traveling and all of those good things. I do want to share with you a little bit about our students this week at YEC, the Youth Evangelism Conference. Woohoo! A few claps. We had a great time. We took 94 of us that went. 21 of those were adult chaperones. If you're one of our adult chaperones that went to YEC, stand up for just 1 second, because I love you and I want everybody else just to give you a little clap. You know, I want to share a little bit about what happened at YEC. And I know we can sometimes disregard numbers. But with over 5,000 teenagers there, these numbers are lives of teenagers, and these numbers matter. But listen to this. Saved this year at YEC was 325 teenagers. Wow. 463 teenagers made rededication decisions. 212 teenagers responded to a full-time vocational call to ministry. Incredible. 81 teenagers made other decisions for a total of 1,081 teenagers responded to the gospel of Jesus Christ in 2 days. Wow. Now, people ask me, Brad, you're 41 years old. Why are you a youth pastor? I don't have to say anything else. You know, getting to be a part of these moments, getting to be a part of some of the most influential years in a person's life is what makes it worth it. And getting to be with them. So, church, I want to invite you next year, 21 more of you, go and be a part of this trip. Can you imagine being in an arena with over 5,000 teenagers worshiping God, and 1,000 of them responding to the gospel? It's an incredible, incredible experience. I will take it, but somebody sent me home with the YEC bug, and I'll take it all day. And that was you, Jasmine. Jasmine, you raised your hand. Several of us came home a little sick. I tried to handle it for a couple of days and thought, oh, it'll just pass. And then Friday night, I had 101 temp. And I said, oh, no. So I sent a message out to our staff. And I said, I don't know how this is going to go, but I got 101 fever tonight. So they all said, we'll start praying for you. And their prayers worked. And also 2 shots from the doctor Saturday morning have helped as well. But I will have to say those steroid shots kept me up most of the night, tossed and turned. But it gave me time during the middle of the night. God just kept speaking His word to me, and I had opportunities just to sit there and pray. And so I'm praying I'm ready. In the first service, I squeaked through most of it, so I'll pray I'll squeak through most of it here with you. You know, you're in this time of the season where we have lots of feasts. We have Thanksgiving feasts. We have Christmas feasts coming just around the corner. And it's a great time. It's a great time to make memories as a family. It's a great time for us to make memories as a church and the things that we do for Thanksgiving and the things that we're going to be doing here for Christmas. Brian and his worship team, and they're getting ready for a special presentation. They're going to be telling you a little more about that here in a little while. But it's just an awesome time. You know, feasts were also very important to Jesus. And so as I'm looking over Thanksgiving and Christmas, thinking about feasts, this whole chapter of Luke chapter 15, if you got your Bible, go ahead and turn to you. There's not going to be anything on the screens today. There's no outline. There's no bullet points. We're going to be walking through a story together. Basically how Jesus told stories. He was a master storyteller. Whenever he would come down and do preaching or teaching, his preaching and teaching consisted of present-day stories, present-day illustrations that had a heavenly meaning so that his audience could understand what he was trying to say. He didn't want to disguise it in any way. He wanted to make it perfectly clear in their everyday, ordinary languages. But these stories, of course, they opened up the opportunity for us to fill in some of the blanks. It opens up the opportunity for us to understand history a little bit of what was going on then. What would they have understood about these stories? Because, hey, we're a couple thousand years after this. So we have to kind of fill in some blanks, fill in some spaces. And so today we're going to walk through one of these stories and kind of fill in the space. But let's look at Luke chapter 15. If we start in verse 1, it kind of gives us the context of what we're looking at. It says, "Now the tax collectors and sinners were all gathering around to hear him. But the Pharisees and the teachers of the law muttered, 'This man welcomes sinners and eats with them.'" So here's our context. Jesus speaking, teaching to this group of sinners, and the religious people are a little offended by that. And so Jesus goes into telling them 3 stories. I'm not going to tell you all 3 of them, but in the first one he tells a story about there being a lost sheep. Basically, the sheep was lost. It was out in the wilderness. It went out on its own. And a sheep is foolish. A sheep is ignorant. So it was lost because of its foolishness, because of its ignorance. It had just kind of wandered off. And so the shepherd left the 99 and went to get the one sheep. And when the one sheep came back, look at what happens. Then he threw a celebration. He threw a feast because the one sheep who was lost has come home, has been found. Then he tells us the next parable, the next story was of a lost coin. Now the coin was lost at no fault of its own. It had done nothing wrong. It did not lose. It did not go out of the way. And so a lot of times we have to think about lostness in that regard. Sometimes we're lost because we're foolish and we're ignorant. But we're also lost at no fault of our own. We're just lost. Everyone is born into this world lost. We don't have to try to explain why we're lost or how we're lost or where the lostness came from. We're just all lost. A lot of times we want to put a blame on somebody for our lostness. Doesn't have to be a blame. It's just that we're lost because of our sin that separates us from a perfect God. We are lost from Him. He's not lost. Even though we may sing some songs about I found Jesus, we don't find Him. We're the ones who are lost. And then again, once that coin is found, this lady searched for it all night long. I'll have to excuse me. She searched for it all night. She walked around the house. She turned the house upside down. She found the coin. What does she do? She invites her friends over and she says, let's celebrate. I found my coin. It's here. Rejoice with me. And so these first 2 stories, he tells of objects. I mean, a sheep, of course, is not just an object, an animal. And then he tells of an object. But then in the 3rd story, he's going to get a little more personal. He's going to bring people into the equation of this story. Jesus continued, if you got your Bibles, Luke chapter 15, verse 11. Some of you may have titled the parable of the lost son or the parable of the prodigal son. I'm not as smart as these guys who did this, but I think they're wrong. Because I think this is more of the story of the parable of the lost sons. Because as you'll see throughout this story, we're not just dealing with one son. Jesus tells us right off the bat, verse 11, there was a man who had 2 sons. So both of them are going to be equally important to the point that Jesus is trying to make to the audience that he's looking at. You've got to remember, he's got the sinners, the tax collectors and sinners, the heathens right here, and then he's got the super pious religious people over here. He's talking to both audiences. And so he tells a masterful story that is going to include both of these audiences, a point to both of them about the kingdom of God, about Jesus, about what it means to be lost and what it means to be found. So let's discover this together. There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, "Father, give me my share of the estate. Give me my inheritance. Give me my blessing." Now let's first of all take this from the son's perspective. This son has just walked up to his dad, stared him in the eye, and basically has said to him, "Dad, I can't stand you. Honestly, Dad, I hate you." And let's just get real about this, Dad. I really don't want to be around you anymore. I really don't care about you anymore. All I really want from you is your money. If it was up to me, Dad, I wish you were dead right now. He looked at his dad and he said, "Dad, you're dead to me. Give me my inheritance." Wow. Now for this son, for whatever reason, coming to this place in his life, bored at home, tired of his father's instructions, tired of doing things in his home, ready to get out on his own, live life the way he wants to live it. Possibly, he just wants to make his own name for himself. It's coming from his perspective. Now let's turn around and look at the dad's perspective, the father's perspective. The father has worked all his life to raise his kids, all his life to build up this wealth and this inheritance. Because in this day, that was one of the greatest honors for a dad, was to pass on the blessing of this inheritance to his sons. So much, so great that many would say it would be like a bride-to-be, how she thinks about the wedding day, how she plans it all in her mind, feels it emotionally, has everything planned out. Starting from a little girls, they began to do that. And this dad would have been the same way. He's got this day planned out. Maybe it was right before his deathbed when he knew his days were coming short, that he was going to plan out this victory moment with his boys and be able to have his boys, his sons, come in, and he would be able to share his blessing and his inheritance with them. A day that he would really, really have looked forward to. And all of a sudden, his son comes in and gives him the most disgraceful statement that could ever be said to a dad. "I want nothing to do with you. Give me my blessing." Man, the dad had a decision to make. How does he handle it? You can imagine emotionally the pain he would feel. Maybe the anger. But in this moment, he has to make a choice. How do I go about? Listen to what he says. "So he divided his property between them." Okay. Well, the younger son's the one that came to him and asked for the blessing. But the dad, being a just father, he realizes, I've got 2 sons here. I need to ask my older son as well. So gathers the older son. This is one of the parts of the story that sometimes we lose out on. Excuse me. It's going to do this a lot, by the way. I think when the sent out the message to the staff about praying for me, I don't know if they're praying for me to get healthy or praying that they wouldn't have to get up here and do this Sunday. But either way, God worked it out. So this older son had a choice to make as well. I don't know for sure, but it's most likely the older son has a choice to make too. Why did he take the blessing? It wasn't the right time. Wasn't the proper place, wasn't the proper time. And I think as we'll see later, there's a lot of jealousy going on here between both sons. You see, the older son now saw that the dad was going to give the blessing to the younger son. And wait, where's my blessing? Hang on now, what about me, Dad? See, because he could have said, no, Dad. No, Dad. That doesn't come. That comes later. This is not the time. This is not the place. But he chose to receive the blessing anyway. So the dad gave his blessing, his inheritance, to both of them at the wrong time. Then it goes on to say in verse 13, not long after that, the younger son got together all he had, set off for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living. Catch a couple of things from here. He gathered together everything he had, and he set off for a distant country. Just means this: he never planned to come back home. That was never in his plan. Took everything he owned, and he got far, far away from the Father. Distanced himself as far as he could away from his dad. You know, church, a couple of things comes up here about this. When we distance ourselves from God, sometimes we do it in physical ways. You know, sometimes we pull out from church. You know, we pull out from Bible studies. We pull out from kind of anything that has to do with religion and Christianity and God. But sometimes we do it sometimes in non-subtle ways. Maybe it's the kind of sins of omission. You know, it's really not that we're doing anything bad, but we're not doing everything that we could to get closer to God, which would be the same, right? You see, sometimes we just kind of start coasting. We just kind of start gliding. And we all know what happens there. We all know if we do that in our marriage, if we do that in school, if we do that at work, we all know what's going to happen. Consequences are going to happen because of that. There's going to be breaks in relationships. There's going to be breaks in marriages because of that. Because you see, our relationship with God may not be like this son where we physically just remove ourselves from His presence. But it may be that we're not daily doing the things daily to stay close to God. And so what ends up happening is we drift and we drift and we drift. It doesn't happen so quickly sometimes, but it even can get to the point where the sun is about to hit. He says he went to a distant country, and there he squandered his wealth in wild living. Now, it would be it would be pretty entertaining probably to describe this wild living, but we'd have to put an X-rated sign coming in the door this morning if we really talked about what this wild living included. But I can tell you it was so bad, Jesus described it in such a way that it was so bad, it would so got the attention of His audience that they all would have grimaced, they all would have frowned, they all would have said, I would never do that. You see, it got so bad, tells us at the end of the story that the son, the older son, heard about the young son's, his brother's wild living. Look at it. Turn over, just look over at verse 30. The young son says, but when this son of yours who has squandered your property with prostitute comes home, you kill the fattened calf for him. So imagine this. His lifestyle was so obnoxious. His lifestyle was so crazy and out there that everyone in town, everyone from a distant country had heard about him. Imagine that. That's how crazy he got. That's how unbelievable his parties were that he went to. That's how unbelievable it was, the people that he associated himself with. That word got around everywhere. This is the craziest guy you will ever meet. The things that he will do, no one else will do. And so Jesus has given us this example, extreme example of a son who comes to his dad and tells him, I hate you. I want you to die. Give me your money. I'm taking everything that I own. I'm leaving the house. Break number 3. I'm going to leave the house. I'm going to live wild for everyone to know. And then I'm going to squander it. Look what happens. He says, after he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in that whole country, and he began to be in need. The day's coming. No matter how much you think you can live life without the Father, or how much you think you can make yourself happy that you could possibly be, no matter what great story you have and dreams you have for your life, if they don't include the Father, it's going to be that day that's going to come to an extreme need in your life. And in his case, it was a need that was surrounded by a famine. To even, make the case even bigger, Jesus says he was in need. There was this famine. He had nowhere to go. So what did his son do? He had a choice. He had a choice he could make right here. But like so many of us today, his choice included, I can get this right. I can do this myself. I can make this happen for me. There's no way I'm going home. There's no way I'm going to tell somebody I was wrong. There's no way I'm going to say I made a mistake. I'll do whatever it takes to make my name for myself with no one's help. And what does he do? He says, so he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country who sent him to his fields to feed pigs. And we all know in a Jewish culture, Jews and pigs, they don't go together. They hated pigs. Pigs were filth, disgust. Pigs were unclean. And now you have this boy feeding the pigs who got in so much need that he began to eat what the pigs eat. He was so hungry. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. Verse 17, I got this circle in my Bible. When he came to his senses, he's in the pig pen feeding the pigs, and it says he came to his senses. What senses did he come to? What happened in this moment? Where was he going with this? Did he smell something? I'm sure he did. Did he feel something? Did he taste something? I mean, what's going on in this moment that he would come to his senses? Many of you had feasts this week. Man, there's some smells that I'll never forget. Brian and I would go each year to Baton Rouge to my Mama and Papa Hop's house. We would spend Thanksgiving. We'd walk in the front door. They had this little bitty kitchen, and it seemed like a table that would hold 25 people. We'd crowd around in this little kitchen. And my mama and papa would slave over for 3-4 days, getting food ready. Walking into there, smelling the smells, the laughter, the joy, tasting the food, stuff that will never be forgotten. You know some of those things. Well, here's this boy sitting in this pig pen, remembering home. Remembering those moments with his father, sitting at a table, eating wonderful foods, eating and celebrating and having incredible times. And he's stuck in a pig pen. And he came to his senses. And he had to make another choice. He had to make another decision. He had to decide, what am I going to do? He said this, how many of my father's hired men have food to spare? And here I am, starving to death. So here's my decision. I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired men. You see, he remembered what it's like. Came to his senses. Remember what it's like to be in the Father's house. And here's what hit him. I didn't deserve any of it to begin with. I didn't deserve to be there in the first place. I don't deserve to be there now. But if I go home, I don't want to be a son. I'll be a servant. You know, that's what Jesus has called us all to be. He's called us to be His servants. When we are lost and we are found, we choose to say, Lord, I'm not worthy. Lord, I'm not worthy to be forgiven. I'm not worthy to have another breath. I'm not worthy to be able to talk right this morning. But God, I'm your servant. And I'll do what you want me to do. I'll go where you want me to go. I'll come back here, God. I'll serve you for the rest of my life. See, that's what the son came to his senses. And that's what he began to realize. But I want you to get something. Look at this. Some of you may have family, friends. It may be some of you in here today. You're the prodigal right now. You've made choices in life to squander the blessings that God's given you. You made choices in life to live based on your sin. You've walked away from the Father. You've distanced yourself from Him long enough. But here's the awesome thing. God spoke. The Father wasn't verbally, spoke to the Son in the pig pen. He'll speak to you when you're drunk. He'll speak to you when you're in the hotel room where you're not supposed to be. He'll speak to you in those moments. Because you see, our God, Jesus said He came here to seek and to save the lost. You can't go nowhere that He's not going to come looking for you. That He's not going to speak to you. It can be in the most hideous moment of your life. And all of a sudden, God says, come home. What are you doing? Isn't that awesome? That's where Jesus says He'll speak to us. It's from the pig pen. But not only that, the boy made the decision. He got up and he went to his father. Look at the next verse. But while he was still a long way off, the father had a dream at the beginning of this story. The father's dream was to give his blessings to his sons right before he dies. Give them their inheritance, give them their blessing. The sons disgraced the father, dishonored the father. But did the father just say, I'll write you off? That's it, I'm done. We're through. I'm over with you. No, listen to this. Listen to this. A lesson for us dads and moms. The father got a new dream. The father began to see life differently. Look at the way he saw life now. It says, but when he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. You see, now the father's dream, now the father's vision, from the day that his son disgraced him, his new vision was, I want my son home. I want my son back. And so periodically, he'd look down the road that led to his house. He'd look down that road and he would be looking for his son. He'd be dreaming about the day that his son comes home. Some of you in this room, God's dreaming. Our Father is dreaming about the day that you come home. Man, I don't know how long it took for the son to get home. We don't know that distance. Jeff, would you do something for me? Would you go stand right in the back against that wall? Jeff, as you walk forward, I'm going to count your steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Thanks, Jeff. We don't know how long it took the son to walk home. But I can tell you this, for some of you today, 18 steps will bring you home today. 18 steps at the end of this service. You come and you repent and you say, I'm not worthy, Jesus. I've squandered what you've given me. I'm not worthy anymore to live it for myself. I'm going to take 18 steps to come home to Jesus today. 18 steps to say, Lord, I'm your servant now. I don't deserve anything more than that. I'll serve you for the rest of my life. If you'll forgive me, if you'll save me, I'm yours. That son left that day. He took that first step towards home. And he walked every step. How am I going to explain this to my dad? How am I going to explain this to the Father? What am I going to say? He rehearsed it over and over and over again. Came up with this incredible speech. This is what he said. After his dad ran up to him, threw his arms around him, kissed him, the son began his speech. Father, I have sinned. It's the first thing we have to say to come home. I have sinned against heaven and against you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. The father interrupted him right there. That's enough. I don't need any more explanation. I don't need you to say another word. I don't need you to repeat this certain prayer. That don't really matter. I just need you to come to me and say you're sorry and say I'm yours. I belong to you now. And that's what the son did. And he stopped him right in the middle of it. He said, verse 22, but the father said to his servants, quick. I wish I could say that a little bit better. Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. That's honor. The father's saying to the son, I'm covering up all this sin you had. I'm covering up this filth you were living in. I'm covering up these scars from the sin. I want to put on something clean for you to wear. I'm giving you honor. He put a ring on his finger. That's showing his authority as a son. That's showing him he's never lost his place in the home. And then he says, I'm going to put sandals on his feet because you're not a slave. You belong to me. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and let's celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. So they began to celebrate. They began to have a feast. I imagine every night as that father would sit down at his table and he would eat. He left that chair open for his son. One day my son is going to come home and he's going to sit in this chair again and he's going to feast at my table. You know what, ladies and gentlemen? There's a chair for every single person on this planet in heaven. That the Father is waiting on every single person to sit at his everlasting feast. But he gives us the choice. You're going to take those 18 steps. Are you going to take that steps to come home? You're going to take that first step in repentance. You know, this is the climax of the story. This is not the ending. I know my time is running out. My voice is too. But I wouldn't be doing this story justice if we didn't finish the story. Because you see, a lot of times that's where we end this story. In our evangelical churches, boy, that's the perfect time. Let's call the altar call. Let's get everybody to come down. But if Jesus didn't do it, I'm not doing it. Because I think the next part of this story is just as critical for us today in the church. It says, meanwhile, the older son was in the field. The older son was working. He was serving. Like many of us in here today. He's in the church serving the Father. Doing all the right things. Going to the classes. Maybe even being one of the pastors, deacons, teachers. Going as chaperones on trips. See, the oldest son was doing the right things from the outside. The youngest son, that's extreme what he was doing. But how does the older son react? When he came near the house, he heard music and dancing. And some Friday night fever up in the church. We get a few people mad about that, wouldn't we? He heard music and dancing. So he called one of the servants and asked him what was going on. Your brother has come, he replied, and your father has killed the fattened calf because he has him back safe and sound. Oh, that wasn't very good news for the brother. That's where we realize this jealousy thing. That's where we realize this brother may have been living in the home with the father, but he wasn't in tune with the father. He wasn't on the same page with the father. The older brother, look at verse 28, he became angry and refused to go in. Uh-oh. Now we got complete opposites. Here we had the younger son now leaving the house. Beginning of the story. But now he's come home. And now we have the older son refusing to go in the house because the father is paying attention to this younger son. Church, we got to be careful here. Because for many of us, we've been serving in the church for a long time. And so too easy. It's easy to get caught up in, well, hey man, I've been here the longest. This should be about me. I've been doing all this work. What am I going to get out of all this? What's in all this for me? Wait a minute. All these new people coming in the church, all these people getting saved, we got to change everything that we do around here. We start hearing the voice of this older son. So the father has to address him now. It says, the father went out and pleaded with him. But he answered his father, look, all these years I've been slaving for you and never disobeyed your orders. Yet you never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. What? He's given him his blessing. He's given him his inheritance. And now listen, church, he's complaining about a goat. You see how easy when we're not connected to the Father, when we're distant from the Father, but yet we're going through the motions of serving Him, how easy it is that we'll complain about the things that don't matter, and we don't even go back and realize, I've got the eternal feast waiting for me. I've got everything God has in store for me. And I want to complain about the little things. We've got to look at our perspective. He says, you never even gave me a goat so I can celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours, who has squandered your property with prostitutes, comes home, you kill the fattened calf for him. My son, the father said, you are always with me, and everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and be glad because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. You see in this story, there's one son lost because of rebellion. He came back and he surrendered. And we have this oldest son who really never left the father's side, but he went through the motions all his life. In the end, who was lost? In the end today, where are you? Have you come to the Father? And have you said, I'm not worthy, God. I'm not worthy of anything you've got, but I want to be saved. I want forgiveness. I want to be your servant for the rest of my life. Or maybe you're the older son today, and it's not so apparent that you're lost. But you know in your heart, you're not doing the things that the Father does. Because if you get yourself close to the Father, you're going to be excited about the lost coming to Christ. You're going to be excited about doing the business of the Father. And the business of the Father is to go out of these doors and to seek and to save the lost. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're not seeking and saving the lost, you're not following the Father. If you're not following the Father, you're distancing yourself from the Father, and the next thing you know, you're one decision away from the pig's pen. So I want to call you today. 18 steps. Prodigals, come home. 18 steps. Those of you who have been going through the motions for a long time, you can come home today. Brother Don's going to be here at the front. I'm going to kind of stand off to the side because nobody wants to breathe on me right now, or wants me to breathe on them right now. I want you to come to the altar this morning. 18 steps could change your life forever. Are you ready to come home? Let's pray. Father, we've opened your word up. We've spoken it the best that I can, Lord. Pray your Holy Spirit would now draw and save. Bring your children home. Pray right now. Many in this room who have been living apart from you would take that first step and take 18 steps and come home today. Pray in Jesus' name. Amen.